Welcome in to the Scoop podcast presented to you by Johnny T-Shirt and JohnnyT-Shirt.com. All right, welcome into the Scoop podcast. I'm your host, Ross Martin. If you're watching on YouTube, you're seeing Don's video issues. We're joined by Don Callahan as always. Big show today. Special guest coming up very shortly. We're going to have UNC General Manager Pat Suddes. Is that how you say his last name?
Yes.
Suddes. Kind of the guy who handles roster management and recruiting for UNC. So in about 5 minutes, we'll have him on. We're going to kind of intro the show here, and then we'll bring on Pat. Don, what's going on, man?
Not too much. Big weekend that we'll talk about for North Carolina. We'll also talk about the weekend prior when I went to Atlanta. So I spent a few days traveling. So we'll get on to that. Beyond that, same old stuff. What about you? Did you cover the Duke basketball game on Saturday?
Yes, yeah. UNC
Okay.
lost to Duke. Not good. They're going to ACC tournament this weekend, so they kind of have to win out, I think, to make the NCAA tournament. So that's what I'm preparing for this week. We're heading to Greensboro on Tuesday. Yeah, we were recording this on Monday morning. You're probably gonna be listening to this, Wednesday or Thursday. I think it will drop Wednesday. I'm not exactly sure. So we were recording this Monday. And as Don said, yeah. So we'll do the Pat Suddes interview for about 25, 30 minutes. Should be great. And then we'll jump into kind of more hardcore recruiting stuff. Don is going to discuss UNC's visit weekend for the Duke Carolina game, and also anything else that happened in terms of the Atlanta. What was it going on in Atlanta?
It was the Under Armour camp in Atlanta. A lot of UNC recruits there.
Yeah, I know you did a whole weekly scoop on that as well. All right, we will bring on Pat Suddes next, so stay tuned for that. Remember, this is brought to you by Johnny T-Shirt, JohnnyT-Shirt.com. Rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts, Spotify, Apple, and then also on YouTube. We're doing all the podcasts on YouTube now, so make sure to subscribe there, like the videos, and you'll get alerts when we go live there. So Inside Carolina on YouTube. Next up is going to be our interview with Pat Suddes, and then we will discuss UNC's recruiting weekend and the recruiting weekend down in Atlanta. We'll be right back with Pat. All right, we're going to welcome in Pat Suddes, UNC General Manager, head of all the recruiting operations at UNC. We're going to jump right into it here. What's going on, Pat?
How we doing, guys?
Great.
Doing good, doing good. You want to start off, or you want me to start off?
No, I got it. This is Pat's second appearance on the Scoop podcast. You're now a recurring guest. We'll jump right into it. You've been on the job now for about 1 year. You were hired in early February 2022. So, general question here: how was the first year? How have things changed, developed? What's your kind of 1 year in perspective on this job so far?
No, first year's been great. Chapel Hill has been great to me and my family. That's always important. If your wife and kids love it, then it makes your job easier because of all the time we got to spend away from them. So that's been great. Changing, we're run by the NCAA, so that's changing daily. So there's already been a ton of changes, more changes to come. I think coming up here in April with them voting on a couple other new rules and changing things. So from that standpoint, changed a lot. But no, just excited about our signing class, excited about the 19 new guys on campus, and obviously first practice yesterday, so got to see some of those guys run around. Had to double check to figure out who was what number, but no, it was really good to see those guys get on the field, and excited about the new guys coming in. Had a great weekend this past weekend with a lot of top recruits for the 2024 class on campus. Really, it was like an official visit. They were here for 2 days, got to see the Duke game, and then stay for practice yesterday afternoon.
That actually leads into my question. I know you can't get into specifics on who visited and all that sort of stuff, but
yeah,
generally, how did everything go with the guys you had on campus? A lot of big time targets.
Yeah, I think it went great. I mean, number one, obviously, UNC Duke game is bucket list for a lot of people to go to that game, including myself. That was my first week on the job last year. I got to go to that during the dead period, and that was exciting. Obviously, the outcome's not what we wanted, but the atmosphere, just a chance to show these recruits, our fan base, how passionate they are about sports in general. especially for the ones that haven't been here to a football game. I think that was huge for them to see that aspect of it, and then be able to stay. Most of them stayed the night. We're able to sit in on meetings, go to practice, and see a lot of our new coaches on the field coaching our guys up.
So was the Pat, you're seeing my video. I don't know what it is. So it looks like you guys remember Max Headroom, or are you guys too young for that?
No, it looks like one of those old MTV.
Yeah.
I want my MTV.
Don's having
Yeah.
major
Back in the-
video issues for those
I don't
listening.
know
Yeah,
what. Yeah, I
that's
don't know what it
right.
is. But you mentioned the practice. Was it purely just a coincidence that the first day of practice happened right after the day after the Duke basketball game, or was there any sort of planning ahead of time where you guys were looking at spring practice, when to start it, and you're like, oh, look, Duke basketball game, let's make this an entire weekend? Because it ended up working out perfect. As you said, it was basically a unofficial official visit weekend.
Yeah, no, it's a little both. We probably would have started practice maybe on that Saturday if it wasn't for the Duke game. So, but Max always kind of done, that week before spring break practice. But it worked out with the Duke game for sure.
How much planning goes into a big official visit weekend? Not official visit, a big, visit weekend like that. Like, how much ahead of time are you planning logistics and coordinating your staff and making sure everything, all your ducks in a row and everything for that?
Yeah, the whole month of February, that was our number one goal. Obviously, it's a dead period, so you don't have to worry about kids coming on campus. So, Alex White, Jess, Molly, all those people that work for me, Julian, Daniel, they do a great job organizing this, communicating with the prospects when they're going to get here, getting as much information on the front end, as far as what they want to see. We don't do a cookie cutter model where, you're going to just tour this, go see this, meet with this person. We want to know exactly what they want to see, what their interests are before they get on campus, so that when they get on campus, we have the best plan for each individual prospect when they get on. But yeah, a lot of planning. The coaches did a great job gathering information. And then, they really got a chance to see what we're all about here at Carolina.
So you guys have gone away from, I guess, the quote unquote junior day sort of thing. Why is that? And I think you kind of touched on it a little bit here.
Yeah, I mean, I think, everyone just kind of does the same things. And as we've seen in college football, it's ever evolving. So I've done this for a long time, and junior days has always been like herding cattle. You got 150 kids on campus, and you're just, you're busing, and you're just going from one thing to the next and just lecturing. And I think with attention spans of kids nowadays, and shoot, it was bad when I was a kid, and I couldn't sit there for more than 20 minutes without, falling asleep, whatever. It's just better when you can be more individualized and give them more one-on-one attention than just, because you never want to piss off a kid coming on campus and they don't get enough attention. And I think that's what junior days do. So we really just say we're open all the time. Anytime you want to come on campus, when it's not a dead period, come on campus. And that way we're not just set on, a couple days of junior days and just trying to get as many kids on campus.
So is the weekend like this past weekend? This is invite only. Like, you're targeting a certain select guys to come in?
Yeah, we definitely target the guys that we've offered. One, two, maybe guys that haven't been on campus before, coming outside the 5-hour radius, can't drive.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a bunch of kids that flew up here, for the weekend, and stayed in the hotels around the area. So yeah, we definitely target those kids, but any kids that want to come on campus, outside of that haven't got offers, we're always open. We had, in addition to the kids we had for the Duke game, we had, additional 30 to 35 kids come to practice, on Sunday. So we had about 50 kids in total.
All right, we're going to move into the next topic here, the 2024 class. Every class seems to have its kind of own identity and like kind of how it flows and when you get your commitments. You have 3 right now. I know you can't talk about specific names, but how do you see this class developing when you see the commitments you think happening? And kind of how do you see the flow of this class going up into signing day in December?
I think it'll be the same as last year, where you're going to get a bulk of your commitments in the summer. You get, again, I think it's going to be a huge month in June for official visits. We've kind of cleared up some things. It's good, just trial and error. Last year we kind of had 2 big weekends in June and still had camps and stuff going on the weekends. This year we've kind of moved the camps away from the weekends so we can clear up all the weekends for official visits. So I think it's going to be the same thing. I think guys are going to take 3-4 official visits in June, commit sometime end of June, July, and we'll be in the same place as we were last year with a bulk of our recruiting class done as far as high school, and then kind of see what we need in the portal throughout the year.
Yeah, that kind of brings my question is, how do you juggle it? Because last year you signed a bunch from out of the portal. So how do you determine we're going to go to portal with this position or with this scholarship as opposed to going high school?
Yeah, I think you have to look at each individual position as far as what year they are, because you don't want to get a lot of guys at the same position that are the same year. If you have too many seniors, you're going to have to replace a lot. If you have too many freshmen, then you don't have enough experience. So we really base it off that experience wise, what we needed. We lost a lot in the secondary. Obviously, we need more experience, and that's why we target a lot of secondary guys in the portal this past go around. We lost experience at receiver, and still had some younger guys that were coming on last year and will continue to come on. So that's why we had to add some veterans like Nate and Tez. So it all depends on that, and I try to even out the classes. Thank God, I guess after this year or next year, all the COVID guys will be gone. So you don't have to worry about are they using their COVID year and all that kind of stuff. And it will kind of balance out a little bit and help us out with roster management.
So we're going to go now. I think the two kind of hot topics in recruiting is transfer portal and NIL. So we're going to focus kind of the rest of this interview on that. And you kind of led into transfer portal there. I got first a question. Which of these, I think you had 9 transfer portal guys, maybe 10.
Yep.
Which are you most excited about personally? Obviously, you got to see some practice yesterday.
Yeah, I'm really excited about all of them, to be honest. And I know that's a generic answer.
Come on.
I know what I'm getting out of the Georgia Tech guys, obviously.
Yep.
But still excited that they're on campus. But I know what to expect out of those guys, and just being around them. I think Tez Walker is just judging for the first practice, he's going to have a huge year for us, and very excited to see him. Elijah Huzzy in the secondary, he's coming off, a guy that's just a ball hawk, coming off, he's got a lot of experience. So really excited to see him play. Amari Gaynor, coming off and playing that jack position, has played in this league, has been a productive player in this league. He looks the part. Again, I had to do double takes on who these guys were. You feel like, who the heck is that? So that was exciting to see him. Armani Chapman, obviously great experience in this league. He knows this league inside and out. He's been productive, very smart football player. So really excited to see him. And then, our specialists, man, can't forget those. My guy from down under, he's got a huge leg, so excited to see him. Ben can kind of show him the ropes. That's what's good with Ben being back a year, can kind of show him the ropes and get him adjusted to our game. And then Ryan Coe coming in as another guy with a huge leg, and will be able to help us out.
What sort of impact have the new transfer portal windows kind of had this time for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, it's tremendous impact. Again, you have these windows, but then if they're graduated or going
then
to
there's no
graduate,
window.
they can jump in. There's no window. So it's really like, I appreciate what the NCAA is trying to do, but at the same time, it doesn't really slow things down. But, December is crazy. Obviously, there's just, that's probably the one thing from a coaching standpoint, and a college football standpoint we got to clean up. Because there's too much going on for head coaches and assistant coaches in that 2-week window. That's obviously a time there's a lot of coaching changes. So head coaches are trying to interview coaches. They're recruiting all their current class. They're recruiting transfer portal. They're recruiting your own kids on campus. It's just there's not enough time to do that, especially when you play in the championship game, conference championship game. You don't have enough time. So that's something I know that coaches across the country are trying to get cleaned up with the NCAA to figure out what the best plan is moving forward.
Well, so I've tried to think about this because it's so hard, because obviously at the holidays, you can't move those. You can't really move, the bowls and the playoffs and all that sort of stuff. What can you do and I'm asking you more of your opinion sort of thing. I know obviously it's out of your hands. What do you think? What's the solution here to kind of help with that? Because December is nuts.
Yeah, I think even moving early signing day earlier is the solution, and and I know other sports kind of do this, not make it a day, but just a window where they can sign. So whether that's the entire month of August, or I don't know what that is, but you see everyone taking all their official visits in June and they're committing, let them sign in August. And
Yeah.
then if there is a coaching change, they should be able to get out of their NLI. I think that would alleviate a lot, and it would help these high school kids, especially with portal, that guaranteed lock in their spot,
Mm-hmm.
and teams can't drop them. I think you see a lot of that. Obviously, we don't do that here because we're selective on who we offer and who we take. But teams across the country, there's horror stories about high school kids getting dropped 2 days before signing day because they want to add portal kids. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that will clean some of that up. Whether that happens or not this cycle, I doubt it, but hopefully in the future they can look into that.
So with the transfer portal process, let's go back to this class you just signed. What is it? You have, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks to evaluate these guys once they enter the portal. What does that look like? Like, how do you identify who you need? Obviously, you got to figure out your needs first.
Yeah.
Figure out who you want, who's available, and then how does that recruitment process work? Can you kind of go through that process from your side, from once they enter the portal to when they arrive on campus or when they sign, commit?
Yeah, once they enter the portal, myself and my staff will one, get the film, which it's easier nowadays. In the past, you had to call your video guy and say, "Hey, we need film from ETSU, load in our system ASAP," and that might take a little bit of time. But now with PFF, we've got all the film for the most part for every division at our fingertips, so we can watch that film. We always try to watch film of comparative teams that we played, that they played as well, so we can see how they played against them, especially if they're coming from lower level. We always like to see what their best competition is and how they played against them. So that was good. Obviously, we took a bunch of kids from the ACC, so we know, we've seen them, we've studied them. My staff and I do advanced scouting reports throughout the year of the teams we play anyway, so we've got those reports. So anyone that jumps in the portal that we've played before, we already have a written report, and we'll just go back and do a refresher. So we'll watch that. We'll give it to the coaches to watch. As soon as they approve, then the biggest thing obviously is getting the transcript. It's easier for us to take grad transfers here, or guys that were just 1 year out, because the progress towards degree is what really gets a lot of these guys hung up in the transfer portal, because when you transfer, you lose credits, right? And so if you're a 2-3 year guy out, you might not have the credits to transfer in to stay eligible and stay on track. So that's the biggest thing for us, is getting the transcript. We got Joe Hayden, academic staff, and admissions office do a great job doing a fast turnaround to get us the information, so we know, because you might love a kid, you love his film, he wants to come, and then you get his transcript back and he can't come because he doesn't have enough hours. So that's what usually happens. That weeds out a lot of guys. What's good is, a lot of these kids now will tweet out, "Hey, I'm gonna go into the transfer portal, after the season, before that window opens." So at least you have an idea of, you can't talk to them, but at least you have an idea of the guys that could enter, that have already declared. So it's full speed, and and you got to get that turnaround fast, because then you got to get them on a visit, and you got to get, you only got 2 weeks to get them on a visit. So it goes fast.
So you just offer as quick as you can, talk to them, get them online with the coach, and then try to get them on a visit, or just try to get them to commit without a visit.
And what's good about that is these guys that enter the portal, it's not like high school recruiting.
Yeah.
It's all business. They understand. They're not trying to get a bunch of offers and release the top 5 and do all that kind of stuff. They want to know where they can go, where they can play, where they can be developed for the next level. And so that's the good thing about it. It's not that they're not going to, it's not, high school recruiting condensed in a 2-week period. It's they know what they want for the most part, and they've already got it whittled down in their mind that 2-3 schools they want to go to.
And then lastly, on transfer portal, I mean, we touched on this earlier, but you can get a guy who has 3-4 years experience, or even who can come in and play immediately, versus a freshman with no experience. I mean, how do you balance that? What's y'all's philosophy at UNC about starting to take more transfers and limiting the amount of incoming freshmen that you sign?
Yeah, our philosophy, obviously, with the portal is to take guys that have experience, that have tape. It makes it a lot easier when you have college tape for us, because even recruiting high school kids, they could have great tape, they could have everything lined up, but whether it's the competition they played, or they're maxed out, or anything like that, You just never know how they'll be at the next level. But we still want to have balance.
Yeah.
I can't tell you this year we're going to take 8 transfers. It all depends on how it shakes out. It all depends on how much experience our younger guys get this year, how much depth we create this year, to see what we're going to take. Because I don't want to be, set of this is how many we're taking. We have a projected number at each position of, how many high school kids we want to take versus portal right now. That's obviously subject to change. Who enters the portal on our team, who leaves early for the draft, all those type of things. But we want to have balance, because you still have to, just like the NFL, you still have to grow and develop your guys to really sustain. I don't think the model of taking big transfer portal classes every year is sustainable. One, for your culture, but two, I just don't think you just never know what you're going to get out of the portal every year.
Yeah. So let's transition into NIL, which I don't know if that excites you or not.
It is what it is, man.
Yeah. So how do you guys I know that you guys can't be super involved. How do you juggle it? I mean, what are you allowed to do? What are you not allowed to do? And obviously we know guys are breaking the rules and everything, but
yeah.
What are you supposed to do? What's it like now?
Yeah, so I had meetings yesterday, one-on-one with recruits, talking about it. It's part of the visit process now. It's part of the tour, and if you're not doing it, then you're going to be missing out, because they want to know questions. So we just try to more so educate them on what we can and can't do. Which, like you said, there's a lot of teams breaking that rule, just talking to these families, because some of the rules I'm giving them, they had no clue. So we really just go based on the education of what we give our players when they get here. Two, we go through just kind of what the process is here and how we do that. And then the only thing we are able to do, obviously, you cannot entice recruits and say you're going to get this, this, and this, and that's out of our hands anyway. Heels for Life is separate. That's the collective. That's separate of the university. That's separate of the football program. Who they decide to pay and not pay is up to them. But what we can do, and what compliance has told us we can do, is tell them what our current or former players made, whether that was through the collective, through their agents, whatever that's been turned into compliance and reported. We are able to say that. And obviously, our guys that have success here playing and the marketability, the Josh Downs, Sam Howell, those guys, they're taken care of by the community here, and just the way that they market themselves.
So who is telling them about that Sam Howell made X money during the visit?
Myself, the coaches can tell them that. Yeah.
So you're definitely putting together presentations with look, this is what Josh Downs did, this is how we marketed him, etc.
Yeah, and we'll put out different tweets that they've done, that they've been promoting different things, and put that package together. We show all of our social media accounts. Carolina community is strong on all platforms, so we show that hey, once you commit and sign, these followers become your followers, and the more followers you have, the more different businesses want to reach out to you to promote their products, because they know more people will see it.
And is Heels for Life involved in the recruiting process? Were they there yesterday or Saturday? Okay.
They're not. That is a big NCAA no-no that is getting broken at a lot of schools. Collectives cannot communicate with any recruits, cannot entice recruits to get on campus. The only time collectives can talk to is current players that are on your campus.
Okay.
So how is it different with portal guys compared to high school guys when it comes to the NIL, whether they're talking to you about it or the approach?
Same approach. We just, again, we can tell them what our current players make.
Well, I'm talking about, do you get more transfer guys coming to you with NIL stuff, or is it more high school guys, or are they,
No, it's a little both. Some don't care about it. Some want to get, they know that on the back end, there's a lot more money coming if you can go to a place that can develop you and get you to the next level. Also, the education piece, obviously, with this degree, the 40-year decision, that's NIL for the future. And then obviously with the signature shoes that the team gets, that they get when they graduate, that's that's like a savings account where you got these dues that no one else has, to use for however you want when you're done. So
I feel like, and probably not the guys that you guys go after for the most part. The transfer portal guys, there was definitely some high profile guys
yep.
who get rich quick sort of situations. Did you kind of see some of that a little bit?
No, yeah, for sure. And I think NIL has eliminated a lot of guys on our board, high school
Mm-hmm.
and portal.
Okay.
Ones that are asking for money up front,
Yeah.
and we continue to tell them we can't do that and all that.
Mm-hmm.
If that's the number one priority, we're probably not going to get them.
Yeah.
And that's just the facts. And again, we want all of our guys on our team to profit as much as on NIL, but I'd rather those guys that are here that have put in the work and all whatever. We're not going to promise anything to high school kids or portal kids, because that's just not what we're going to do. That's not the Carolina way. It's not legal for one. And I think you're starting to see some of these cases with the NCAA come out, and we'll see, how that progresses. But, we just want to show them use NIL. Like, if you come here, you do what you're supposed to do. There's going to be opportunities available. But we're not promising anything, because one, we can't. And two, we want kids to come here because they want to come to Carolina. They want to be developed. They see the fit. They like the culture. They want the degree, and we're going to continue to do that. So that does narrow down the high school pool for us, right? And we get that. So we have to be more strategic, and that's why I think you'll see us kind of branch out of the side of the 5-hour radius a little bit more going forward, especially at certain positions. But we still have a great product to sell here.
So you mentioned a little bit about the NCAA getting on some of these programs. I was reading about the Miami thing with the girl basketball players, and it just seems like, it's like a slap on the wrist sort of thing. I mean, can the NCAA really do a whole lot that's going to prevent these teams from doing what they're doing?
I think it's going to come higher up than the NCAA.
Okay.
Or
Oh.
whenever this thing breaks away, or there's super conference or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, I just, they've changed their model. They came out, I guess, a month or so ago, or maybe longer than that, saying basically NCAA is looking at everything. You're guilty until proven innocent.
Mm-hmm.
If you get turned in for tampering, you get turned in for inducing recruits through your collective or anything like that. They're assuming you are guilty, unless you can prove that you did not do it. So we'll see if that works. We'll see if that helps. They are kind of trimming down the rules, so that way stuff that they couldn't enforce in the past, the phone calls, all that kind of stuff. I think you're gonna see them start to trim that book down, so they can focus on the bigger picture stuff, which is hopefully what they should have been doing in the past. Like, not a guy takes a picture on the field and makes a athletic stance, and they're gonna try to catch you on that. They're gonna try to catch the bigger issue.
But can they really? I mean, can they really do anything that's really going to make these guys stop? Unless like you mentioned, high level, government sort of stuff kind of gets in. I mean, beyond that, the NCAA just seems so powerless.
Yeah, I think with Ed, starting with Ed O'Bannon case and kind of working their way up. Anytime there's a threat of a lawsuit, they're probably going to cower up. But we'll see. New president, new chance to change. The new president of the NCAA. So we'll see, but not getting my hopes up.
Okay.
All right, we'll get you out of here. Really appreciate your time. I think you have a meeting to go to. I have one quick question, a little fun question. You've been in Chapel Hill now for over a year. What's one thing maybe you've learned about Chapel Hill, or a favorite restaurant that you've discovered, or something with the time you do have that you've kind of enjoyed about living here?
So definitely understand why they call it Chapel Hill. Just taking different hikes and even walking around campus. There's not a lot of flat areas, so I understand that part. Food. I'm gonna go with Mr. Tokyo is number one for sushi.
Okay.
In my opinion, that's the go-to spot. Big sushi guy.
Okay.
I go back and forth between the steakhouse. Bin 54. Stony River, you can't beat Ruth Chris. So we kind of, we use all three of them in recruiting from time to time. So I get to taste test a lot. But no, you can't beat their restaurants in the area around here.
Is Mr. Tokyo the one on 5501 out there in the shopping center?
Yeah, it's next to the Mexican spot.
Monterey's.
Yep.
Don't they have like an all-you-can-eat lunch thing there?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Ooh, we have to hit that up.
Yeah. Hit that up. That's the go-to spot though.
Awesome. All right, Pat, we appreciate your time. As always, very informational.
Yeah, thanks, Pat.
Yeah. Appreciate it, guys. Take care.
And we appreciate Pat for his time. That was very informational. We'll talk about it after the break. Let's talk about Johnny T-shirt and JohnnyT-shirt.com, your one-stop shop for all your UNC apparel needs. It's springtime. You know, you gotta get your jerseys, your shirts, T-shirts, polos. Head to Johnny T-shirt and JohnnyT-shirt.com to check that out. Remember, all Inside Carolina subscribers get 10% off. So if you're waiting to subscribe, you're listening to this podcast, you're interested in football recruiting, all of Don's stuff is behind a paywall. So make sure you subscribe to Inside Carolina and also get that 10% off discount code to Johnny T-shirt and JohnnyT-shirt.com. We appreciate their support. They're local, great customer service, local independent company, UNC alum. So we appreciate everything that Johnny T-shirt does for this podcast and Inside Carolina Podcast Network. Couple national ads. We'll be right back to wrap up this podcast as Don's video still struggles. We're back very quickly. All right, we're back. Don, let's do a quick recap of the Pat Suddes. I'm saying it right, Suddes?
I believe so.
Okay. I always feel like I'm messing it up. Yeah, he's great. He's great. Sharp.
Oh, yeah.
We both kind of know him a little bit. Did you learn anything that stood out to you from the interview?
Yeah, the NIL stuff is always really interesting. That's the one area that I just don't feel like I have a firm grasp on, so it's always interesting whenever I can kind of sort of piece it together a little bit. And then just kind of, obviously, I think we're in line to see some changes to the recruiting landscape and college football in general for the next few years. So any sort of insight can get into what potential changes we can see is always pretty good. What about you? What would you take away?
I think the transfer portal and just how it's evolving. I think there's just so many changes right now. It's interesting to see someone who's in it, see how they handle it. And UNC is gonna be different than schools like Miami or Clemson or Tennessee. They don't have the NIL stuff. They just don't have it as much right now, or I don't know if they will. It's just not part of how they operate as much. So that's interesting to see. I think UNC has these visits, the Duke. That's a huge advantage to have a weekend like they did with the Duke game, because you're gonna have so many recruits that want to come for that game. So it gives them an advantage there. That was interesting as well. That's it for me.
Okay.
Just good ball talk.
Do you want to get into just the weekend real quick, since we kind of touched on it a little bit?
Yeah. How was so the Duke visit weekend? What stood out from you? I haven't read anything you put out yet, but
well, I haven't really put out anything yet. I've been working on it.
Yeah. Happy birthday to Don. Don's birthday was on Sunday.
Yeah. So
how'd that go?
Yeah. Well, we kind of sort of celebrated on Saturday. I thought here's the thing. Like, I'm not a big birthday person, and I only do all these things because like my family gets on my ass about it. And so I thought I knocked it all out on Saturday, and then everyone's getting on to me about how we have to go out to eat for my birthday. And so we settled on just I was like, can we just order Jersey Mike's or something? And so I was able to get that. So
you're just an everyman guy. You want Jersey Mike's for your birthday?
Well, I've been on this. Weren't they a sponsor at one point?
Yeah, I think I had to deal with them for one podcast season.
Yeah. So, but I don't know. I just wanted a hoagie or a sub. So.
Yeah. Happy birthday, Don. 42.
42. I feel 52.
Young,
though.
man.
I feel
42.
52.
And had one job your whole life.
Well, I've had some jobs when I was in college, but yeah.
What are the jobs you got? What are the jobs you gotten fired from?
I got fired, I think, only from Kohl's.
That's so funny.
Yeah. So, anyway, so this weekend, beyond my birthday, because I'm sure a lot of people don't give a crap about it. I thought, and we touched on this a little bit with Pat, I thought it was just so ingenious to have the the practice on Sunday with the Duke basketball game, because it kind of forced a lot of guys to stay the weekend, to stay the night. And I think having kids stay overnight and it not be an official visit is just tremendous.
Are they staying with players usually? Like you said, like apartments and dorms and stuff?
So I imagine most of them just booked their own hotels.
Okay.
But could there have been a scenario? I just, from the little that I know, I think most of them booked hotels that stayed. So, but I mean, and in some instances, and I kind of was maybe a little critical of some of the guys they had coming. The Anthony Carey kid, the 4-star running back from Florida, him visiting after he released a top 12 that didn't include North Carolina, and then also Brody Barnhart, who had a top 3 that didn't include North Carolina. He came. And then Zion Ferguson, who has been committed to LSU since September, he also was brought in. And I was a little critical of that. I kind of thought it was a waste. But I think at least in the situation with Barnhart and Carey, it probably ended up putting North Carolina in a really good spot. I think Zion's going to stick with LSU, and we probably won't hear from him again when it comes to North Carolina. But I was actually pretty I felt a lot better about North Carolina's chances with Carey in particular. Barnhart, I think, he kind of the schools that he narrowed it down to, I think originally was NC State, Virginia Tech, and West Virginia, if I'm getting that right. Those schools have a certain feel, personality, and I think those fit him. So that might make it difficult for him to choose North Carolina in the long run, but I think it definitely, the weekend definitely gave him something to think about. Now, he didn't stay for the practice. It was mostly the out-of-state guys, but I just think that just getting those guys to make it a 2-day visit, expose them to the Duke basketball game, and then expose them to a practice, having them stay overnight. Some of those guys hung out and did things on Saturday night was tremendous. A lot of those guys ended up going to Mac Brown's house, which, because of NCAA rules, him living within a mile distance, that's permitted. Whereas typically that would only be permitted during an official visit if he was outside of that 1 mile radius. So another benefit. So they basically got official visits out of these kids, even though they were unofficial visits. And I think that's going to help North Carolina with those recruits.
There you go. And you had a commit. Rosinski was there. Wasn't the linebacker there as well?
Yeah, Evan Bennett was there too.
Okay, I'm looking at your list here. Who were the other? Jonathan Paylor was there. Jake Merklinger, Cruz Law.
I don't want to give away a whole lot of premium content, but I was able to speak with, I think there was like about, I don't know, like 16 or 18 guys, all offered prospects, that were at least there for Saturday. A lot of the in-state kids didn't stay for the practice because I guess they figure they can always come back for a practice. But I got up with a good amount of those guys. Definitely the top guys like Merklinger. I mentioned Anthony Carey, the running back Davion Gause, another 4-star running back from Florida. I got up with all those guys. Got up with Barnhart. We'll have updates on all of them in the next week or so. So definitely check that out. As you mentioned, I mean, we're recording this early Monday morning. So I've been working on some of the stories, but haven't posted anything, but I hope to get a couple of them out at least by the end of today, and then have more later on in the week and beyond.
So where are we in the recruiting calendar now? Are there going to be more visits, weekends, or spring practice started Sunday, we'll open spring practice on Tuesday for the media.
Yeah, so basically the February dead period obviously just ended. And so we're in kind of the spring season where kids are just taking a bunch of visits. Most of those visits are occurring over weekends and will be in conjunction with a practice at a school. And you'll see a lot of kids have tweeted out these lengthy, a dozen schools that they're visiting, which is pretty impressive. So a lot of these kids are taking these visits, and then through these visits, they're going to decide where they want to officially visit, and those official visits will occur in June. So, the guys who visit over the weekend, it's pretty big in determining just how, where they go with North Carolina. Do they take an official visit? And some of the guys, I'll say, scheduled official visits, and we'll have that information later on.
When's the earliest they can take an official visit?
It's in April. I
Okay.
don't. I'd have to look at my notes if it's April 1st or if it's a mid. Let me see if I can find. I might actually have it right here.
That's crazy.
April. I believe April 1st they could begin taking official visits. But I'll tell you that most schools and most kids are going to wait until June, and maybe some take officials like in late May. I just think for everyone's timelines, June just seems like it fits a lot better.
Yeah. Okay. Big official visit, big unofficial visit weekend for UNC. And then last weekend you were in Atlanta for the Atlanta
Under Armour
Yes. camp. Are the openings still a thing? Opening camps?
So the openings have this year. I don't
Nike's
believe there
camp.
are any. Well, so that was kind of the main thing. Nike pulled out, and so it's just been and they've been doing it since I've been covering recruiting, which so it's kind of crazy. So it's just the opening, and then really it's just the Elite 11 this year. They took a long time to get their schedule out.
That's quarterbacks, right? Elite 11's quarterbacks.
Yes, it's quarterbacks, and what they have done in the past is invited other positions too, but it's definitely quarterback focused. I haven't had a chance. I just saw the schedule. The schedule wasn't out when I was planning out my spring, so I got to go back and look at the schedule and see what they're going to do. But yes, it's definitely quarterbacks. They obviously are going to need running backs to come, and DBs and stuff. But it's one of those camps that's slowly kind of sort of dying. Maybe they just stick with the Elite 11.
All right, major takeaways from Atlanta Under Armour camp. This is deep recruiting, so we don't need to get into it too much. But anything that stood out that our listeners need to know about?
Yeah, so I actually went on my way there. I spent a day in Asheville visiting Christ School, and we talked about this. This was actually right before that visit. I did not meet your guy.
Yeah, I don't think he was there. Jeff Joyce, shout out, loyal listener. I think he was away. He wanted to meet you.
Well,
he wanted to take a photo with you and get it framed and put in his office.
Because yeah, what's wrong with that guy? Because of it's a very academic focused school. I had to go right after school end it.
Yeah,
and talked to Caden Jones. That was really interesting conversation. We had a story up last week on that. North Carolina's really in it. He's a kid who's just kind of a little bit all over the place, has a bunch of schools that he's really interested in, but really likes Chiswick and really likes Mac Brown. So I think that's going to help North Carolina stay in it with him. But he definitely likes the Alabama situation there. We talked a little bit about that. But the actual camp, Jake Merklinger was there. That's I think he's ranked number 58 in the nation overall, not just quarterbacks. So he's obviously a big target North Carolina's, and he returned to UNC this past weekend. We'll have an update from that visit. But the thing with Merklinger was coming out of that camp, he has avoided media for the most part prior to that camp, but obviously you can't avoid media there because there's tons of media, particularly at the Atlanta one. But he was great, and he answered a lot of questions, and he was smart about it where he actually had his schedule planned out before he arrived and broke the news on the schedule at the camp. So he laid out his visits. He's basically down to 5 schools, North Carolina being one of them.
What are the other 4?
Visit those. Was that?
What are the other 4? Sorry.
The other 4 are Michigan State.
He's kind of emerging as a big-time target.
Yeah, Georgia, Michigan State, Tennessee, and Virginia Tech. He has a visit scheduled coming up with Georgia, Michigan State, and Tennessee, and is trying to schedule one to Virginia Tech. So in the weekly scoop, we kind of broke down just, there's a lot of things I was able to gather just to kind of talking to other people, other reporters, other, people close to him, people that know what Merklinger's kind of sort of thinking. So we have a little bit of that in the weekly scoop. But I actually left that camp and left my conversation with him recently feeling a lot better about North Carolina's chances. When it comes to recruiting and you're competing against Tennessee and Georgia, for a Georgia kid, you can't feel great about North Carolina's chances, but I think they're actually a lot better than what I initially thought.
Is it take right now for Georgia, you think? If you want to commit right now, you commit to Georgia?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay.
I think The hold up there is Georgia has a quarterback already committed, but they want a 2-quarterback class,
Ooh.
mostly because they don't have an incumbent starter, and they're having a quarterback competition among, like, I think 3 or 4 guys, and the feeling is at least one of them is going to transfer after the spring, and potentially another one of those scholarship guys could transfer before the season, which will really leave their quarterback depth chart pretty empty. So, which is why they feel the need to sign more than one guy in this class.
Okay. Okay. I don't know if I have much more. I mean, other than your video messing up. Sorry, we want to apologize to those watching on YouTube about Don's video.
I've been trying to fix it each time as
The
soon as
audio
quickly can.
the audio has not been affected, and I think
Yes.
most people listen to audio.
I
Okay.
got a question for you though before we go, because you're trying to wrap up.
Well, I got one question for you real quick.
Okay.
On these camps, when you get all these recruiting reporters together, I mean, what's it like? Just a bunch of alphas hanging out? What's it like when you get all these guys who know each other and do the same job? So it's like they kind of know the day-to-day of everybody's life. What's it like when all you guys get together?
So it's actually not too bad. I wouldn't say alphas. I say, if anything, like sports nerds sort of thing. Like, I'm finally around people who I'm like talking about, the backup catcher for the Phillies, and they know who I'm talking about, sort of thing. But I'll tell you that when I first started, for a while there was always this like weird competition, like you don't talk to, like, because obviously we were a scout for a while, and like the Rivals guys would not talk to you. And I actually, for a while there, I had a couple of friends who worked at Rivals, and we would kind of talk, but it had to be on the down low sort of thing. They didn't want the other Rivals guys to see you talk to them. But now it's like, I think because of all the movement and everything.
Yeah.
And like Chad Simmons, for example, we worked with him I worked with him at Scout.
He's at On3 now?
Yeah, he's at On3 now. He was at Rivals, but I've always had a really good relationship with him. So we'll kind of talk and all that, and it's no big deal. And he's pretty high up at On3. That he's kind of like their focus. But I mean, he's cool, does a really good job, and doesn't, it's not this weird sort of competition thing. And there's even things where someone's like, "Hey, I just talked to this guy. He mentioned UNC. You might want to go talk to him," sort of thing. So there's definitely kind of the helping out. It's kind of almost like the old school newspaper guys when you used to have, like, a dozen newspapers covering a college team, which is no longer the case. But it was more of a camaraderie, and that's how it is now.
Yeah, it's a fraternity. It's a fraternity.
Yeah, well, I guess we can go that route. It's not like when Ross and I would compete, and Ross would not talk to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's like there's only so many people in the world who do this job, and it's kind of a tight-knit group of guys who know the ins and outs of the role.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Go.
So
okay.
I have a question for you.
All right.
Unless you had more. Do you have more?
I think that's it, man. I mean, I'm not too deep on the Under Armour Atlanta stuff. Obviously, the main part of the show was the Pat Suddes interview.
So,
by the way, we gotta go to Tokyo, Mr. Tokyo, with him.
Okay, we'll have to do that. I'm not a big sushi person.
Well, I think it's like Japanese food too, like rice and other stuff.
I want to be a sushi person, but I don't know.
You don't strike me as a sushi person. You're more like buffalo chicken dip, wings, pizza.
Yeah, my daughter loves sushi. Anyway, so I saw your tweet and I love it. I love it. I don't have it in front of me, but you're going to do some exploring of small towns in North Carolina.
Yeah, now that football is over and basketball is about to be over, I got a little more time on my hands. And if NFL is over, is a big thing. Like, there's no NFL games on Sunday, so you're given with some more time. And so I went to travel to these small towns in North Carolina that I've never been to, and go to like the local brewery or go get some food at the local restaurant, walk around, maybe do some hikes or some walks. So we drove to New Bern yesterday.
Oh, how'd it go?
Good, a little farther than I think we want to go in the future.
Yeah.
It's about 2.5 hours, 2 hours, 50 minutes. So it's kind of a long drive for a day trip. But yeah.
Who's we?
It is me and my special female friend.
Oh, God. So I was going to ask if you wanted to do one of these if you wanted me to come along with one of these trips, but if you have a a co-pilot. I'm not going to worry about that. I'll let you.
Where
You and
would
your
you want to
co-pilot.
go? What town would you want to go?
I don't know. So the one reason why I love this is because there was a 4th of July. This was a while ago, where we all of a sudden were kidless because of we have a blended family, and last minute someone was like, hey, can I take him? Hey, can I take her? And we're like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? So anyway, so of course everything's booked. It was last minute. And so we got a place in quote unquote Little Washington. Do you know what Little Washington
Yeah,
is?
yeah, that's actually close to New Bern. It's on the near the coast, right? On the water
Yes,
there.
yes, yep. And so yeah, we now we like the one day we drove out to the Outer Banks, and I think we drove somewhere else
Nice.
too. But we purposely try to make it that we only ate in Little Washington, and it was actually pretty cool. We ended up eating at every single restaurant there in just 3 days. So
Yeah,
because
I
the
mean, there's
place is
some
so small.
kind of like a small town charm thing.
Yeah.
These little places like this. New Bern had a great downtown. There's not much going on there. No fan. I
Mm.
mean, I feel like I was talking with my special female friend, and I was saying like this could be a great like little tourist town if they kind of made it like if that's how they kind of identify themselves, like bunch of bars, breweries, like they're on the water there on a river there, and they could make it kind of like a destination place. There's just not a lot of people living there, I think.
Yes, that's the
But they
problem.
could, because the downtown's great and there's some restaurants, but they just they don't have much identity.
Yes.
Yeah, if going to UNC, you meet people from these little towns. So I had a special lady friend from Little Washington that I
Okay.
had a couple romantic run-ins with in college. That's how I know that town. I'll tell you
Oh
more
boy.
off air on that one.
What's your next stop?
I don't know. Actually, I'd love to take suggestions. I imagine we have a lot of people who listen from different parts of North Carolina. So, keep it within an hour and a half driving that has a nice little downtown and some stuff to do. I'd love to take suggestions. We'll probably get a couple in here in the spring and summer.
What about Holly Springs?
Nah, too suburban.
The
We'll
funny
see.
part is it's only like really my neighborhood that's suburban.
Yeah. I mean, your neighborhood is the epitome of suburban America. That's who you are.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Anything else?
No.
All
Sounds
right.
good.
That's it. Good show here, guys. We'll see you in another 2 weeks on the Scoop podcast. Brought to you by Giant T-Shirt and johntshirt.com. We appreciate y'all watching and listening. And now for a breaking news portion of the podcast, guys. We're back with you on Monday evening, early evening. We had to jump back on the podcast because shortly after we recorded on Monday morning, UNC got a commitment in the 2024 class. Davion Gause committed to the Tar Heels, the running back out of Hollywood, Florida. 4-star kid, 5'11", 215 pounds. He's ranked number 255 in the nation, number 20 ranked running back, and number 40 ranked player in Florida. I really want to appreciate and thank Don for taking the time to hop back on here, providing y'all with some info. We thought it'd be best to talk about Davion now rather than waiting 2 weeks to get into him. So this guy commits, becomes UNC's 4th commitment in the 2024 class. Don, what happened here for UNC to land? I would assume probably their only running back commitment of this class. So we'll see about that.
Yeah, so it was just a guy that Larry Porter did a really good job of establishing a relationship with for the past couple of months, and got him on campus this past weekend. Obviously, we talked about it a little bit in the podcast that we already recorded, but and apparently liked it. Obviously, he arrived on Saturday like everyone else, attended the basketball game, the Duke UNC basketball game on Saturday, and then attended practice on Sunday. They remained in the area and even came back to campus on Monday, but I think they took some time Sunday night to kind of hang out. Him and his parents came with him, and then while he was on his way to the airport, he committed to North Carolina.
What other schools was he looking at? Could he kind of pick UNC over?
Yeah, so UCF was the only school that he visited in January. The only other school he's visited this offseason, and was probably the main school that was recruiting him pretty heavily. But during the season, he also took unofficial visits to Florida State, Miami, Michigan, Texas A&M, and then, of course, UCF. So there were other interest in him for sure.
Well, his offer list is actually incredible.
Yeah. No, I mean, he plays for a Florida powerhouse, and won the state championship last season and the season prior. Had unbelievable numbers, was a Max Prep sophomore, All-American, a bunch of other accolades also.
Yeah, I mean, Arkansas, go through some of the biggest schools here. Colorado offered, Florida State, Georgia Tech, Indiana, Louisville, Miami, Michigan State, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Ole Miss, Oregon, South Carolina, Texas A&M, USC, Utah, West Virginia. So a lot of big schools offered Davion Gause. He commits to UNC. Okay, what kind of running back is he? What kind of player is he? What can you kind of tell us about this 24/7 Sports composite 4-star prospect?
So his nickname is Bullet, and I think that kind of fits him pretty well. He's a bigger back. I think 5'11", 215. He's a thick guy, but the way he runs is like he basically was shot out of a gun, straight line, running through arm tackles, finds the best lane and just kind of hits it hard. You're going to have to get a couple of guys to be on him to bring him down.
Okay. Anything else?
That's it.
Okay. Davion Gause, we want to talk about him now rather than wait 2 weeks. Like I said, he becomes UNC's 4th class. He's the only ranked prospect for the Tar Heels right now. That could change as 24/7 Sports ranks more players. And that wraps up this portion of this. We appreciate y'all listening. I don't know where it's going to go in the podcast, but now you have your Davion Gause segment. And we will check you next time in about 2 weeks on the Scoop podcast.